The husband I chose over a multi-million-dollar inheritance was secretly forging my signature with the stepsister I had defended my entire life. They planned to steal my company, drain my accounts, and declare me mentally unfit before I even realized what was happening. I said nothing when I discovered their first mistake. 3 weeks later, at a family dinner, I placed one envelope beside Daniel's wine glass, and Natalie dropped her crystal glass when 2 detectives walked through the door. Before we begin, dear friends, please help me. Your subscription is very valuable to me. Please subscribe to the channel for more stories like this. My name is Sarah Whitmore, and 6 years earlier, I had made the decision everyone in my family called insane. I walked away from $8.4 million. My grandfather had built Whitmore Agricultural Holdings into a regional empire worth nearly $96 million. When he died, my share was placed inside a family trust with strict conditions. I could receive distributions, but my father, Richard, wanted me involved in the business. Daniel hated that. He never said it directly. He would smile, straighten his $310 Hermes tie, and tell me, "You deserve a life that belongs to you." At 28, I thought it sounded romantic. So when my father refused to approve a premature trust distribution for Daniel's proposed real estate venture, I chose Daniel. I signed away my immediate claim to several family-controlled assets and built something independently. That something became Sarah Whitmore Home. It started with handmade linen collections sold online. Within 5 years, we had licensing agreements, 43 employees, and annual revenue of $6.7 million. Daniel called himself my biggest supporter. Natalie called herself my biggest fan. Natalie was my stepsister. Our parents married when we were teenagers, and I spent years protecting her from every cruel joke about being the outsider. I paid $38,000 toward her college tuition. I covered the deposit on her first apartment. When her boutique collapsed under $71,600 in debt, I quietly cleared 2 supplier accounts so she could avoid bankruptcy. I never kept score. They did. The warning arrived Tuesday morning. My chief financial officer, Melissa Grant, entered my office holding a printed authorization request. "Sarah, did you approve this?" The document requested transferring $184,000 from our operating reserve into a company called DN Strategic Consulting. I had never heard of it. At the bottom was my signature. It looked perfect. Almost. There was one tiny problem. I never signed financial authorizations in blue ink. 5 years earlier, our attorney had advised me to sign original corporate resolutions only in black archival ink, then record them through our encrypted document system. I stared at that signature for 5 seconds. Then something inside me became perfectly still. "Don't reject it yet," I told Melissa. Her eyebrows lifted. "Sarah?" I folded the paper once. "Make a copy. Log everything. And tell absolutely no one." That afternoon, I went home early. Daniel's car was gone. Natalie's scarf was hanging over my kitchen chair. It was cream-colored cashmere, the Burberry scarf I had bought her for Christmas. Beneath it sat a half-empty espresso cup stained with Natalie's dark plum lipstick. She had been inside my house. Again. I walked upstairs without touching anything. Daniel's home office smelled faintly of his Tom Ford Oud cologne. His laptop was missing, but a yellow legal pad remained beneath a stack of property brochures. One line stopped me cold. POA effective upon incapacity. POA. Power of attorney. I photographed every page. Then I called Rebecca Sloan, the attorney who administered my grandfather's trust. Rebecca listened without interrupting. When I finished, she said, "Sarah, do not confront either of them." I wasn't planning to. That was the moment everything changed. For the next 18 days, I became the naive wife Daniel believed he had married. I smiled. I cooked dinner. I kissed him goodbye. Meanwhile, Rebecca's forensic team discovered DN Strategic Consulting had been incorporated 11 weeks earlier. Its owners? Daniel Mercer and Natalie Hayes. They had already submitted 3 forged documents. One authorized the $184,000 transfer. Another attempted to pledge my company trademarks as collateral for a $620,000 business loan. The third was worse. It was a notarized power of attorney claiming I had suffered recurring psychiatric episodes and had voluntarily authorized Daniel to control my financial affairs if 2 physicians considered me incapacitated. The notary seal was fraudulent. One physician's signature belonged to a retired doctor living in Arizona. The second physician did not exist. I felt no anger anymore. Only precision. Rebecca contacted federal investigators because the documents had crossed banking and electronic systems. Melissa preserved server logs. Our bank flagged every pending authorization without alerting Daniel. Then we gave him something irresistible. A trap. Rebecca arranged for my trust to announce a scheduled distribution of $2.3 million into an account held solely in my name. Daniel learned about it exactly as expected. He accessed my private email from a tablet I had deliberately left synchronized. 48 hours later, he submitted the forged power of attorney. Natalie personally delivered supporting documents to the bank. Everything was recorded. The following Friday, I invited both of them to dinner. Daniel arrived wearing the navy Brioni jacket I had given him on our anniversary. Natalie wore diamond earrings worth $9,800. My earrings. She claimed I had loaned them to her. I poured wine and waited until dessert. Daniel smiled across the table. To family. I almost laughed. Instead, I reached beneath my chair and placed a white envelope beside his glass. "What's this?" he asked. "Your future." Natalie stopped chewing. Daniel opened it. The first page was the incorporation record for DN Strategic Consulting. His smile disappeared. The second showed login records from my email. The third contained forensic comparisons of my authentic signature against 14 forged versions. Natalie whispered, "Daniel?" He ignored her. Then he reached the power of attorney report. His face became gray. "You went through my things?" I looked at him. "That's your defense?" He pushed back his chair. "You don't understand what this looks like." "I understand exactly what it is." Natalie suddenly stood. "Sarah, he told me this was legal." Daniel turned toward her. "Shut up." And there it was. Their loyalty lasted less than 30 seconds. I slid another document across the table. It showed $47,300 Daniel had secretly transferred to Natalie over 8 months. Hotel charges. Luxury purchases. Rent. Then came messages recovered from a company device Natalie had used. One sentence was highlighted. "Once Sarah is legally sidelined, we control everything." Natalie's crystal glass slipped from her fingers. It shattered across the hardwood floor. Daniel stared at me. For the first time in 6 years, I saw fear instead of confidence. Then the doorbell rang. Daniel looked toward the hallway. "Who is that?" I folded my hands. "People who wanted to hear your explanation in person." 2 detectives entered with Rebecca behind them. And Daniel finally understood. The envelope was never my revenge. It was simply the invitation to watch his entire life collapse. He tried to run. He made it 3 steps before one detective ordered him to stop. Daniel froze. Natalie started crying immediately. Not quietly. She pointed at Daniel and screamed that everything had been his idea. Daniel laughed bitterly. Then he told the detectives Natalie had created the forged medical records. They destroyed each other faster than I ever could. Rebecca placed one final folder on the table. Inside were notices freezing disputed accounts, terminating Daniel's access to my company systems, and documenting every fraudulent transaction our investigators had uncovered. The attempted $2.3 million transfer had never succeeded. Neither had the $184,000 payment. The bank had held both transactions while investigators documented their actions. Daniel had believed he was stealing my future. In reality, he had been creating evidence. But the deepest humiliation came Monday morning. Daniel and Natalie had told potential investors that DN Strategic Consulting would soon control licensing rights connected to my brand. Several people had transferred money based on those representations. That brought more lawyers, more investigators, more questions. Within months, their partnership collapsed under lawsuits, legal expenses, and fraud allegations. I filed for divorce. Our prenuptial agreement became devastatingly important. Daniel had waived any ownership interest in Sarah Whitmore home before our wedding. The company remained mine. The house had been purchased through a trust-controlled entity. It remained protected too. Daniel left with his clothes, his personal belongings, and a mountain of legal bills. Natalie sold the diamond earrings she had once flaunted. Unfortunately for her, they were mine. My attorney recovered them. I never celebrated their destruction. That surprised people. But revenge wasn't champagne and applause. It was waking up without checking whether someone beside me was lying. It was walking into my office and knowing every signature represented my choice. A year later, Sarah Whitmore Home opened its first flagship showroom in Charleston. On opening morning, sunlight poured through enormous windows onto shelves filled with linen, walnut, and hand-thrown ceramic pieces. My father arrived before everyone else. For years, pride had kept us apart. He hugged me without mentioning the inheritance. He didn't need to. Eventually, I repaired my relationship with my family. I also established tighter protections around my company and created a foundation helping women understand financial documents before signing them. Daniel had once mistaken trust for weakness. Natalie had mistaken kindness for stupidity. They were both wrong. The greatest revenge wasn't taking everything from them. They did that themselves. My revenge was making certain they could never take anything from me again. And when I locked the showroom that evening, I realized I wasn't the woman Daniel had betrayed anymore. I was the woman who survived him. If you found this story compelling, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel for more stories like this. Let me know in the comments what you would have done.